cmpradio.net, the voice of Chester.
These are the signs of love making. Signs of love making. These are the signs of love making. Signs of love making.
Welcome back to another episode of Straight to the Point with Adelaide Evans. And our special guest for the evening is Mr. Making a Change himself, Cory Long.
Good evening, Miss Adelaide Evans. Congratulations on your new show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm very proud of you. I'm proud to see you walking in your purpose, walking in your destiny, gracing us with your talents and expertise.
Who would have thought it would be this, right?
Well, I always knew you had it in you. So just post it.
All right, so let's get to the man himself, Mr. Mentor, visionary, founder, CEO, community advocate, and some would also call you the plug. Did I leave anything out?
I prefer executive director.
Executive
CEO
director?
title is a little,
But you once were the CEO, right?
It's the same thing. Chief Executive Officer, Executive Director. I just think the title CEO get blown up a little too much, and I'm not too big on titles, to be honest with you.
Got it. So, not too big on titles, so titles aren't important.
They're relevant, but they're not as important as the individual. Put it like that.
Good one. Okay, so recently you had put a post up on Facebook, and the title of the post was, "What are the primary issues that concern you regarding Chester?"
Correct.
Now, there were 6 categories.
Yep. Well, 5 plus a 6 was a
Other.
anything other.
Okay.
Right.
So number 1 was crime/gun violence. 2 was education improvements. 3 was environmental issues and toxic factories.
Yep.
4 was recreation for youth and adults. 5 was economic and business development, and then there was other.
Correct.
So you told your audience that they only could choose 3.
Mm-hmm.
Why specifically 3?
Because I wanted to see what was most of importance to the Chester community. All of them were obviously important. We could have named 50 issues, to be more realistic, more like 20 main issues here. Mm-hmm. But 3, gives you a few different options of what means the most to you out of those 5. Or you could have picked your own.
Got it.
Yep.
So I, on the other hand, I added an other, and then I took 2 from the 6 2 from the 5 of the original of yours.
Yeah, what was your other?
So my other was administrative accountability.
So, okay. Yeah, more like the bankruptcy or just.
So more so keeping
good
our
governance.
current, our current administration accountable.
Got you.
So I did notice that you didn't choose any. So what was your choices?
For me, the position that I'm in, I feel like I need to be more a representative of what the people collectively want to see. I don't want to project or interject what my opinion is or what my personal beliefs is. I believe that, there's a time and a space for that. There he is. But overall, it's more so to reflect. A representative of the people should speak for what the people wants, not their personal agenda, their personal beliefs. And I think that's where we go wrong with a lot of our leaders, and not just locally, but nationally. They're too opinionated, and you start driving, even from the pulpit. When I go to church, I want to hear the word. I want to hear the message as it was intended in the book. I don't need to hear a lot of the preacher's opinion, especially on social issues from the pulpit. So I'm one that don't believe in that being the right way to lead or to govern. I believe it should be a public servant is a servant of the public, and the public should have their opinion. And if the public decides that, issue number 1 and issue number 3 is their issue, that's how the leader should represent that body that he's leading.
Okay. So do you feel as though some of the categories, do you feel like some of those are being handled now? Do you feel like they could be handled a little bit different? What's your take on the topics that you posted in reference to what's actually going on in the city?
That's a little loaded. I will say shout out to the folks that were working on that public school funding issue and got that PA State
major accomplishment,
constitutional overturn, which will likely lead to more public school funding.
Yes.
Right. So I will say that's very important. So things are going to likely begin to change as more funding becomes available. What's going to probably happen is the state will begin to take funding from the wealthier school districts,
yes,
and apply that funding to
those that can tear a gym down,
yeah,
and get more funding the next year and rebuild bigger and better one.
If you're getting high property taxes, you're in a wealthier school district.
Absolutely,
your public schools are likely doing a lot better,
yes,
than those here in Chester and places like Chester. So, the level of the playing field. So I will say, in terms of that, I'm happy to see that that happened. But, to get back to your question, where do I think we are with all those issues?
So let's start with the factor of there are a lot of individual groups in the city of Chester that are doing great work. So how do you feel as though they impact some of the categories on your post?
Give me some specifically.
So let's just say environmental justice.
Yeah.
So we know for a fact that there is now supposedly a liquid gas company trying to come to Chester. So when it comes to that specific area, do you feel like enough is being done and enough eyes are being placed on that specific issue so that this third-class city does not end up with something so nuclear that it could wipe out this whole town and the surrounding areas? Yeah.
So first, I think the environmental activists have done a great job over these last few years with raising the awareness. If you had asked me this question 2-3 years ago, I would have said it probably wouldn't have been on that list. It would probably been closer to 7, 8, 9 on people's lists. It was clearly from the 6, answers. It was clearly that environmental was in a lot of people's top 3.
Absolutely.
So there's been a lot of work done in that area to raise the awareness, and people are paying attention. As for the liquid nitrogen gas, the LNG plant, that there's been talks about it.
I've heard for the past 4 years, but we're just now we're just being privy to the information.
Yeah. So I did a little research myself on it, seeing since it's articles out since 2018 about this, and it's just starting to get
some buzz,
some traction. But from what I'm hearing, county council isn't talking about it. City hall folks aren't talking about it, meaning if it hasn't come to any of their desks, they have to sign off on anything that happens on that magnitude in the city of Chester. So is it people talking? Is it people putting money behind things and popping up with little community efforts to make it seem as though they're concerned about what's taking place in the community, so that behind the scenes they're looking at putting together a $1 billion nitrogen, liquid nitrogen gas plant here, another chemical, toxic chemical place here in the community. That's likely what's happening.
Now let's be clear. Chester is what they would consider an industrial city. Was?
My opinion.
Okay. So at one point it was considered an industrial city. So when it comes to that particular plant in itself, I personally don't feel as though the city of Chester needs it.
I personally don't feel as though we need it. And not only do I not feel as though we need it, we don't want it.
No.
Bottom line.
No, we
if
don't want
Chester
it.
when Chester begins to move forward beyond this bankruptcy, we need to find other methods of economic development.
Yes.
That is not at the expense of people's health.
And their
people's health.
lives, yes.
We've given enough. We need to look at whatever plants have already been here and see how we can regulate them more and minimize what they've already done. But we don't need any more of any of that.
No, we don't.
So I'm not an environmentalist. That's not my area of expertise. I look towards the environmentalists to have, the research and the experts on that, but for me, we don't need any more.
No.
I don't need to be an
agree.
expert to say we don't need any more.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to a more spicy area of your life, I should say.
Spicy?
So let's get into the Cory Long days.
So text run that?
So explain to the audience who Cory Long was then and who he is now.
Who in this audience don't know who Cory Long then was and who now?
I'm surprised. Listen, I'm sure there's somebody in this audience that don't know who Cory Long is. So I want you to explain to the audience who Cory Long was and who he is now.
So it was 3 phases of DJ Cory Long, right? Mm-hmm. So I started out DJing when I was 12. I'm 47 now, so that was 35 years ago.
Wow.
So in likeness to my son, he started when he was 9. He's 13 now. Started out when I was 12. A cousin of mine over in Atlantic City had some turntables, and we went over his house after being on the beach and all that. And so I went over and started playing on his turntables and all that. Fell in love with the turntables right there. Again, we going back to 1987, right? So stayed over his house. He said, you can stay over. I'll bring you home the next day. Came back. There it was at the age of 12. I fell in love with hip hop. Bottom line, So Chubb Rock was fresh on the scene. 3 Times Dope was popular back then. And I always was pretty much into music. I was a music guy. I just wasn't into DJing per se. I did a little rapping, did a little break dancing.
Did some rap?
Did I?
Bust a couple lines for us.
Records out, Adelaide.
Bust a couple lines for us.
You know I ain't doing that. Come on now, please.
No?
I ain't
You're not
doing
going to entertain the audience?
No, I'm not. That we not going to do. We ain't doing all that.
Now listen, keep in mind, I know you, but I'm introducing you to the community.
Got you.
So that's why, yeah.
Yeah, but rapping, we ain't doing that. Sorry, y'all.
You're not rapping?
We ain't doing that.
Come on, give us a line.
We ain't doing that. So I was always into music, but, I started in the DJing at the age of 12. So between the age of 12, by the time I was 14, 15, I was DJing a lot of the parties at the high school. And, 16, 17, I was doing the block parties and block parties in the Bennett homes and at 8 Ball, 8th Street. We was doing big block parties. And then I began to, make my mixtapes around, I guess around 14. So that was roughly 89. I was making mixtapes. I literally used to walk around the city with a cassette pouch and sell tapes in different neighborhoods.
Oh, wow.
Literally.
And how much were you selling for back in the 80s?
$10, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Then by the time I was 16, got a car and was driving around, putting the tapes on consignment. So it was fun. It was love. It was it was my side hustle and things like that.
It was a happy place.
It was a happy place. Mm-hmm. As I got into early 20s, began to graduate into, the scene.
A different era of life.
Different era. Even the mixtapes itself went from actually mixing records to more getting exclusives. This is now we get into the DJ Clue era, the Jay-Z Rockefeller early on, in that era, it becomes more getting exclusives. Who can you get to put do a drop or do a freestyle for you and all that. And it became the mixing wasn't as relevant as it was, we talking about late 90s, early 2000s. And so along with that came, chasing the money, chasing, fame and fortune and all that. And that was a different era for Cory Long. And it had its good and its bad, it had its ups and its downs during that time. But overall, you know, I transitioned out of it. It wasn't for me. You know, like I said, it came with his good times. It came with his bad times, and the bad times really led me to dedicating my life to the Lord, to church, and you know that was around about 20 years ago. And once I kind of got more enlightened, I became more open to what's happening in my community, how much I wasn't the father that I thought I was when I was running around chasing it. Because when I was chasing it, when I was chasing a dollar, you know, chasing fame, chasing success, and all that stuff, I felt that I was doing the right thing. Because if I make it big, I can take care of baby girl. You know, daughter, you know, was 9 or 10 around that time. You know, after I come and begin to sort of, you know, be enlightened and start looking at things like, man, you're not really spending no time with this little, you know, with your baby girl. You know what I'm saying? She 10 now, going 11. She gonna be 13. You running around, you know,
living your best life.
Living your best life, going from here to New York. You know, you traveling every day. You up the turnpike, you up the highway. You doing this and that, man. You know, and you know, them young boys gonna get at her. She 11. She gonna be 13 in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, you ain't ready to be no grandpapa, is you?
No.
You better
sit it
your
down.
game up as a father. You know, so she had a lot to do with me really like
settling down.
So yeah, that was a part of it. The other part was I just was different. Like, you know, you don't really join a church and realize that you need to be a better father and then just go right back to the same mode.
Yeah.
You know.
You gotta make a complete 360.
Yeah. So it wasn't a complete one, but it was enough. It was like wasn't no 360. It might have been a
260.
A 60. You know what I'm saying? But it was slowly. But another thing that happened too was the dynamics had changed. So remember, I'm coming from the record era. Like we carried records, we carried crates. You know, when I was on the radio DJing, I was carrying crates in there. So around 2003, 2004, everything switched over to CD. So as quick as
a huge shift.
So it was a huge shift. So now you got to go from this vinyl, to these little discs, and you got to, not only that, we had to like record all the records onto the CD. It was a major overhaul, and that took me a while to really just get adjusted to. And not as soon as I got adjusted to that, it went all the laptop. The CDs was like literally from 2004 to 2006. The CDs was like outdated. And
so I know every now and again you like to get on the ones and twos.
I do,
and you show out.
I love it. I do.
Show out.
I mean, it's in you. It's like riding a bike. Once you start, you know.
So do you miss that chapter of your life?
You know, at times I do. But when you begin to, you know, live a life that is more purposeful, when you impacting lives, helping people, creating jobs, empowering your community, inspiring others, when you're doing those things, I gotta look at that and then say, how can I take away 5 to 10 hours out of my day or out of my week and go figure out what's the hottest records to play.
Yeah.
Like it's
it
no
seems
comparison.
Like every 5 minutes someone else is popping up on the scene.
Yeah, and then, you know, I'm not a fan of this last decade of music. You know, to be honest with you, you know, last probably 15 years of music, I'm not much of a fan. I mean, I got my favorites here and there, but, you know, 1 or 2, 3 or 4 or 5. But for the most part, that's not what
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? After the down south era, you know, after them early T.I. albums and you know, Jeezy's first
music
album
has definitely changed.
Yeah, after that
it's
it was
not
like,
the same.
Yeah, music ain't the same no more. So I'm not in no rush to even figure out who's who and who's these songs. My kids is telling me, they like, Cory, you a DJ? Like, Dad, you a DJ? How
you supposed to know?
Supposed to know. I'm like, well, I don't. And have no
I can't keep
interest.
up.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. So when you get me coming and if you get me to come play, best believe I'm going back in my era. That's what I do. That's what you going to do.
And he going to show out.
That's it.
So what was it like transitioning from DJ to mentor? Or was the mentor part always in the DJ? But what was it like transitioning from DJ to mentor?
Somewhat. I mentored a lot of DJs out here, I put a lot of DJs under my wing when I was coming up, and even as I transitioned into mentoring, some of them guys, man, GL Santana, was part of my Team Mac program. Robbie Mack, part of the Team Mac program. Before that, DJ KY, I literally gave these guys their name. You know what I mean?
The blueprint, yeah.
Yeah, DJ G Diddy, who's still like an understudy, man. A lot of them guys, man, I was mentoring before I even knew. I was a kid mentoring kids.
Wow. It's amazing. So give us a little backstory on Team Mac versus Making a Change Group. And when did you know that something needed to change within Team Mac to Making a Change Group?
So Team Mac, shout out to my friend. He was kind of like a mentor to me, man. Early on, Dirk Butler. Dirk Butler had invited me to church, Life in Christ, and it was just like a church play. And this one I wasn't even thinking about going to church at all, right? And he invited me, and I had respect for him. He was a little younger than me, but he was always a good dude, and I had a respect for him. He was closer to my brother's age. Him and my brother was tighter than me and him at one point. And he invited me to his church play, and I said, I just felt like I need to show up, And I'm telling you, I was hungover. I had been out partying. Head was spinning and everything, but I said, I'm going to go. I told this guy I'm going to go.
I still got to show up.
I'm still got to show up.
I still got to show
up. And
I
went, and I'm nodding. I'm falling asleep in there. But, but it's interesting. It's intriguing to me, So it wasn't but a month or so later that I felt the need that I need to go to church. And where I'm going to go? The last place I was invited, back to Dirk's church.
Wow.
And I went back there, and he became kind of like a mentor, a spiritual mentor for me during, a tough time in my life. And he came up with the name. He said, man, because you're making a change in your life, you should call your new work Making a Change Association. Because, I wanted to do more community stuff. I wanted to work more with nonprofits and schools. And I started to do gigs at the church, like youth jams at the church, And so he actually came up with the original name. So I had people like Zakia Pickett Campbell, Zakia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She was volunteering with me, and we got the skating rink started. Now, again, we going back 2003, 2004, 20 years ago. And these were the original Mac, we called it Mac Association back then, In fact, this brother he was a drummer at our church, Derek Mosley, Deneen Mosley's son, drew this picture. He drew the logo and everything. Like, it was a whole...
Oh, wow, team effort.
Yeah, it was a whole team effort, yeah. So back then it was more like community positive entertainment mixed with, like, youth mentoring, And that's how I really got started. And after a while, it was like, I can't really mix the business with the youth mentoring. I need to just focus on youth mentoring and then focus on business too, So that's how it originally got started. Answer the question? Yeah.
So when did you know that there needed to be a change within your organization, whereas though you then rebranded it to Making a Change Group?
After so many parents, mainly single moms, would just pull their kids out. Even some in my own family, I would see this happening. Like, a lot of parents just don't see the importance of keeping their kids in
structured programs.
Structure after school programs, mentoring programs. Sports is great. That's a great avenue, but not all kids are athletic. And so Making a Change with Team Mac had always, kind of seen to get those kids that was on the fence where they wasn't really the street kid, they wasn't really the athlete.
It was in between.
They was in between, And shout out to your daughter, Nuno, who's in the background here, who was a Team Mac kid. She falls in that category. Not really the athlete, good kid, just looking for, a good place to to belong. And so we found a niche there, and most of the kids had some type of musical likeness or background, you know. So we initially started out as a music and mentoring program. But again, as I grew out of music like that, I wasn't keeping up with the trends with the music, so that's why we shifted out of music. But I would see a lot of parents come pull their kids out and say, you got to come watch your kid, or you can't do this. You know, like it was a punishment for the child to be involved in this program. And the kid would be doing so well in the mentoring program, and this would be a sense of light and inspiration for them, and you know, and empower them to do better in school. And the parent would be pulling them out, you know. I said, man, we got to come up with something.
Figure something out. For
the parents, for the whole household. Because a lot of these moms, and some of them just didn't have the support. You know, some of it was financial issues where they needed to
work a second job.
They needed to work a second job, so kid had to come and watch the other child.
Yeah.
Or you need to go out and make some money. You 14 now, going out there and get your working papers. You need to make some money and take care of yourself.
Wow.
We ain't got time for you to be in no programs like this and all that. So, you know, that's what really made me say we need to be able to do this on a broader scale. And, you know, remember I was a consultant or independent contractor with the city of Chester too, you know, so I was working in the recreation department. I was appointed the anti-violence coordinator from 2009 to 2012, you know, so a lot of the work that I was doing around gun violence intervention and
it was intertwining.
And I'm like, for all the red tape and or bureaucracy that you go through here and all the relationships that I'm developing, all the work I'm putting in, I can do this under my own umbrella.
Yes.
And so that's what, you know, kind of
and possibly get better results.
For the most part, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about your newest, I guess you would call it your newest baby, GVON. Can you explain to the audience what that acronym stands for?
Shout out to the lead interventionist in the building, Mr. Geo Stockman. GVON stands for Gun Violence Intervention Network and Empowerment Program. You know, for me, again, I was asked to be the anti-violence coordinator back in 2009. It wasn't something that I necessarily knew about. It wasn't something that I, you know, was itching to apply for or anything. Shout out to Mayor Butler. He approached me. He appointed me. He said, I think you'll be good at this role, this position. You know, you do a lot in the community. You're already connecting, you know, on a recreation level. And I think you'll be good at this role. And he brought me in, and he just basically said, form it out and shape it the way that you think will work. And so I began to do a lot of research and study national models on what other cities are doing to get it right when it comes down to reducing gun violence, right? So I thought and I said, what city had the biggest gang or gun violence problem in the country?
No.
We're going back to 2010.
Oh, okay.
This was my research, right? LA.
Wow.
Bloods and the Crips.
Yeah. So
I sent the email. I went online and looked up City of Los Angeles, sent the email out, got a response back almost immediately from the deputy mayor, Guillermo Cespedos. Sure, we'd love to talk to you. Set up a time, blah, blah, blah. So I found a summit that was working, that was going on out there. I flew out to LA, went to the summit, but I met with Guillermo Cespedos, 2010, 2011, one of those years, and began to he gave me his whole comprehensive plan on violence prevention and intervention. Whole plan, right? And in essence, they were doing this model called GRID, Gang Reduction and Youth Development. So what they were doing is getting funding from a lot of the local legislators, politicians, what have you, and they were extending their recreation services in the parks in the most troubled neighborhoods. And so they were having basketball tournaments till 11, 12 o'clock at night on the weekends. You know, whatever time frames they had the most shootings or the most violence, they would, in essence, just put recreation in a sense of fun, light, something positive to do, snacks for the kids and things like that. So it became more of a
youth program.
It was youth programming throughout the whole city in all these hot spots
Oh,
per
wow.
se. It was called GRID, Gang
So
Reduction
was it
and Youth
working?
Development. It was working out there. It was working out there. Could we do it? And I looked at, could we do it back here? And it was yes, because yes and no. No, because we didn't have the funds to necessarily, invest into it. But yes, because again, this program, I was an appointee of the city at the time. And so we had recreation at all the parks. So we had the parks department and all that, you know what I mean? So, but that was one model that I looked into. And then, I went down to Baltimore and DC and studied this other group. They were doing this thing called violence-free zones inside schools. And it was fun. It was under like the Center for Neighborhood Resolutions or something, right? And so that gave me another model to look at. But long story short, I was going to different places in the country looking at what was
Trying to
working.
see what they were doing.
See what they were doing. In the midst of this, and we was doing our own thing. We were doing the rallies, we were doing the marches, and so we was doing like little, kind of scaled down versions of what they would do. So we would go into the neighborhoods for 2 or 3 hours and bring the DJ, bring the magic show. I don't know if y'all remember that, 2010, 2011. And just send the message, have some grieving moms, grieving parents out there speaking about what happened when they lost their children. And, we saw some impact. What it did was gave us a direct and connection to a lot of the neighborhoods and started to build relationships. And you started to see more groups forming during that time. It was a lot of groups that came out of that movement back then, a lot. We had about 10 groups at one time. So election happens, election takes place, new mayor comes in, and he just wasn't as open to
the initiative at the last mayor.
Yeah, he wanted his own initiatives. So that changed things. And not too long after that is when I kind of decided that I would launch my own nonprofit, and I didn't necessarily go right back into the gun violence intervention space until 2020. 2020, had a meeting with Jack Stolzheimer, the current district attorney. We had mutual friends, and he introduced me. And I felt that this guy was really sincere about doing something about gun violence.
And we need more people like that.
Right. I felt like he was the real deal. I feel like him and some of his team, I said they really want to do something, and they was talking about the CPSN program, and things that he wanted to do. And so I said, I got something to offer. All the work that I was doing, all the research I did 10 years ago, I got something to offer this.
Look at how it paid off.
I'm going to look and see how we can get back into this gun violence intervention space. And that's what we did, So now, here we are. We've received some funding, 3 rounds of funding from PCCD, Pennsylvania's Commission on Crime and Delinquency. They're funding the GVON program. We have a team of 6 individuals working with GVON.
So what is the overall goal for GVON?
So
how has it, since 2020 till now, how has it impacted the community in your opinion?
Our goal for GVON is intervention, case management, and mentoring. Those are the 3 things we stick to.
Okay.
So we see something happening, and again, we didn't start automatically in 2020.
Because we was in the midst of a pandemic.
We were in the midst of a pandemic, but we did some things. We were going out neighborhoods, giving out, messaging about, stop the violence and all that. We recreation bags during the pandemic. But we started our initiative around 12 to 14 months ago. December of 2021 is when we launched. So over the last 12 to 14 months, what we've done is we've been in schools, we've been in neighborhoods, we've contracted interventionists, to do mediations. And every day that these guys see something that, it pops off or somebody gets shot, they're doing the best that they can to try to get in between it and intervene. Sometimes it's in schools, sometimes it's right in the neighborhoods. So the key to it is getting to individuals in those neighborhoods, or somebody that has influence with individuals in the neighborhood. So when something happens, a lot of times, man, it's just about connecting or talking to somebody that has influence to get that person to think twice before they make that wrong move.
Got it.
Sometimes it's not no getting to them. It's not. That's a tough space. That's a tough space for me. It's a tough space to you. If somebody does something, somebody shoots somebody that you care about, you and I may have a friendship, a relationship, and you may respect me, but at the time, you don't want to hear
nothing you got to say.
Nothing I got to say. So that's what's happening in a lot of these
communities
situations with gun violence. But because we do have a friendship and because there is some influence there, you at least be, listen and open to what I have to say. And so that's the gist of mediation or credible messengers or intervention, right? Then you got a lot of wannabes that's out here just, youngins just carrying, just trying to just peer pressured into shooting and just trying to be down. Or
you shot my friend by mistaken identity.
Some of that.
So now I'm coming for you.
Yeah, young and old, because it's not just young, but it's primarily young. But when you're getting into the mentoring aspect of things, trying to get the youngins 17 and under and trying to show them a different way, show them a different path.
So when we're trying to get the 17 and under, where are we going for them at? Is that in the school?
That's primarily school.
School?
Yeah. 18 and over, that's where the case managers come in. So that's a significant piece too. If you roll up on a neighborhood and you got your case manager there, you presenting them with job opportunities, or you want to help them get their resume together, you want to help them get their IDs or whatever it is. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you got a 22-year-old grown man standing in the neighborhood, it's likely if something go down in his neighborhood, he going to be a part of the problem. So the case management comes in to help him get to be doing something productive so he's not
just
a part of the
standing around.
problem. Right.
So is this a 24-hour operation? Give us a gist of the logistics of the program. So does a day start off like, okay, so we're going to go into schools and have a couple activities. We're going to go to after school programs. So is the GVON program also intertwined with making a change group on the other efforts of making a change group?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the GVON program is in 2 schools and the Boys and Girls Club. So every other week we're over at the Boys and Girls Club, right? Every other Friday evening. The 2 schools is Camelot's Alternative School. Okay. We're there every Wednesday. We were there
in Chester High, right?
In Chester High.
Okay.
So working with primarily those.
But do you find that the Camelot students are more so a problem, or they're misunderstood to the point where as though some of those kids are very smart?
Some of both.
They just have maybe difficulties at home, or they can't get along with the teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, man, listen. Shout out to Camelot because
they do an awesome job.
Chester excel and achieve, not just the staff, but also the students. These are some of the best students that I've worked with in 20 years. I mean, so respectful. You would think the opposite.
Yeah.
Just by stereotype. But the respect level and some of these, man, look, they got some of the best students I've ever seen when I walk into that Camelot program, right? So, yes, many of them are highly misunderstood. But then you start to find the stories, or when you hear about something, again, we only in there one day for now. Some other days, when something pop off, we start getting the names. It's like, they were some of them students that was,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's some of them are the problem, but, they are misunderstood too. And in like fashion, we have a program, 2 programs, because we do male and female. We split them up at Chester Community Charter at the Aston campus.
Okay.
So we work with what they call the Tier 3 students. So
Okay.
Tier 3 students are students that are on the cusp of being expelled. So these are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. These are the kids that brought a weapon to school, or just, continually being suspended, or just need a lot of behavioral support. And
so your organization primarily goes in for those students. I wouldn't say to change them, but to more so listen and give them an opportunity to be better than what they were previously. Because we, as people, parents, educators, we don't know why that child may have brought a weapon to school. They could have been being bullied. Anything could have happened. So now you're on your last strike, and now here's making a change group.
Yeah, to inspire.
Got it.
To empower, and to make impact. We go in there to do that. Now, they aren't the only students that we see in that school. So parents, I don't want all the parents to think, oh, my kid in that program, my kid ain't about to get expelled. Some of them we intertwine with stronger kids to help level up and to help build up.
Got it.
The kids that need more support. So your kid may have been in one or two of the making a change group sessions, or maybe they're regular in the making a change group sessions at Chester Community Charter School. It's a mixture because you just can't have all kids that just need, have behavioral challenge. You got to put a balance in there, right? And so they go in there and work with a little bit of both. And then we have our newest initiative called G's Mentor G's, or Gentlemen Mentor Gentlemen.
Okay.
And that's launching, and we got a team of brothers, some solid brothers that have signed up just for that. And that's going to be at our home base site. So,
can you give us a little insight on what that's going to entail?
Yeah, so that's Thursdays from 5 to 7:30.
Okay.
It's at our office.
Are we serving dinner?
We are.
Okay.
We feed you well.
Y'all hear that right? He's serving dinner.
We feed you well.
Bring the kids.
We feed you well at our programs. Incentivize. Gio has been a big part of developing that program.
Shout out to Mr. Stockman.
Yeah. It's a 9-week program.
Okay.
So it's for ages 11 to 17, 21, 11 to 21. So
and this is just for males for right now,
right?
This
is just for males.
Okay. So are we thinking of a program for young ladies?
I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Just specifically on this Gentleman Mentor Gentleman. We got some solid brothers like, is it cool to say them? Solid brothers like Maserati Rand.
Okay.
Is a G-Von Exit 6 mentor. Rick Carroll, Raymond Carroll, Greg Cotman. Of course, Nasir Leach is one of our interventionists, so he's in the program. Help me out, who I'm forgetting? Al Watson, of course, Gio, and it's 2 more that I'm missing. It's 2 more, but it's 8 men.
So that's the core group for right now.
The core group is 8 men.
Now, are you looking for more?
Mentoring 24 young people. So it's a 1-to-3 ratio.
Got it.
So at this point, we're not looking for any more.
So you have your quota
Revolution
for right now.
Washington, shout out to Rev. I ain't mean to give his whole government but Rizzy Rev, man. But it's a core 1-to-3 ratio. So I didn't really want more than 3 young men,
to a person.
Okay. So you really want to give them the attention that they deserve. But yeah, so that's the G-Von program. And then again, like I said, we got full-time case managers, we got full-time interventionists. So we got a scanner in the office. So when we hear something, we hear a shooting, we find out what's something going on. They're going directly to the scene and trying to de-escalate, trying to mediate.
Is that working?
It is. Well, collaboratively, that we're not the only ones.
Okay.
But I mean, we're doing what we can do. Like, these guys are doing what they can do. Now, we as an organization, because I'm not out there. Shout out.
So it's a team effort collectively with other individuals.
It's a team effort collectively, correct, with other individuals. But it's other programs out there too that's doing the work. And again, collectively, homicides are down. We had 11 last year and down from 31 the previous year. So homicides are down 62%.
That's a huge number.
That's a huge number. One is too many. One is too many.
One is too many.
And so shout out to all the grieving families. One is too many. I'm sorry that you have to go through that at all. I'm sorry that our community has to deal with this at all. But our job is to be out there and to minimize or to stop all of it. And we're going to keep working until we do as much as we can to stop that. And another thing that I wanted to say with you, I'm friends with a lot of folks on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And, our Facebook with the algorithms, you don't get a chance to see
Everything.
everybody all
Yeah.
the time. But when somebody is murdered or and they put their post up, and I guess it's from all the comments and all that, the algorithms start to shift, I'm seeing all that. And I've seen it for so long. I've seen it, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I'm seeing moms. I'm seeing certain moms that's still going through stuff. Shout out to Nakira Brooks. I'm looking at her posts. Man, that stuff eat at me.
They may have lost one child, and now they've lost another.
Shout out to Kyle Davis, KC. Happy birthday, by the way, brother. I'm seeing that stuff, man. And I'm feeling that. Like, I know these people. I know your kid. I know you. I remember Nakira when she was a kid. She was in the program when I started Team Mac. She was in the youth council down there at Chester Community Charter. So to see her go through what she going through over her son, I got to do something about it.
Absolutely.
I got to bring what I got to the table and do something about it.
Absolutely.
That played a big part of it.
And I feel like you are the person that can get it done.
Well, I'm a person.
And I say that because you're resourceful, you're passionate, and when you put your mind to something or you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. If they ask you to show up, you're going to show up. If your program was to shift, whereas though you had to, let's just say, for instance, meet a family at the hospital, you won't be there, or a representative of you is going to be there. So
Absolutely.
That's why I call you the plug, because you do know a lot of people.
I do.
And you have a lot of resources, and you have a lot to give. And you've been in this game for a long time.
Yeah.
So I feel like you are the right person to get it done.
I appreciate you. because I believe in doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you say you're going to do something, you stick by it. You do
Yes,
it.
yes,
Bottom line. You
yes.
know, to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
So if I give you my word, that's
$100,000 for me.
Yeah, that's one of our core values. Accountability, integrity, service,
Commitment.
These are core values. So these are on my website.
Yes.
These are some of the core things
That you stand by.
that we stand by.
Okay, so we know you're not just an advocate for the city of Chester. We know that you advocate for your own family as well. So tell us about Cory the father, and if there's any of your children that has followed in your footsteps.
That's the toughest job in the world right there. Sheesh. I think in their own way, my kids follow. Shout out to my daughter, Lamaya, in their own way. Lamaya is an entrepreneur. She's owned her own hair salon for the last 6 years. She was 10 years old. She said she knew what she wanted to do. And
At 10?
At 10.
Wow.
She said, I want to be a hairdresser. I went right over town to the Member Beauty store was over there, right over there by Pizzeria.
Mm-hmm.
I went right over there and bought her one of them mannequin heads at 10 years old. This is what she wanted to do.
Wow.
I said, you sure, Maya? She said, Dad, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I tried to open her up to other, avenues, other, expose her to nursing and other things.
That wasn't the
She
passion.
said, Dad, this is what I want to do. So we supported her. She went to, beauty school, got her license, got her, certification in that area, and she opened her own salon. And
How did that make you feel?
proud, very proud of her. Still to this day, she's still, she's
pushing
an
forward.
entrepreneur. She's an entrepreneur. Cory got another piece of me. He took the DJing on his own. Something he just started picking up doing. Because again, like I said, I'm not, I wasn't keeping up with the technology and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So when I had it down, he was picking it up. He was picking up, figuring this stuff out on YouTube, going to other mentors and all that stuff. Shout out to my man, DJ Mega Skills, who mentored him a lot. Then he came up under Diddy, and so, Cory doing this thing. Cory, the baby girl, she got a lot of my qualities. As an 8-year-old, she's very outspoken, kind of the
Creative.
creative, yeah. And
All right, so how is it balancing your day-to-day while also being a father and a husband?
it's tough.
Because I know that some days you press for time. I know you looking
I'm
at
always pressed for
at the
time.
watch. You're like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So
Listen,
how is it balancing those two huge parts of your life?
you got to do the best you can. I got to pick up one of my kids in another hour. I'm down in Wilmington tonight. All this other stuff, I willingly signed up for. I got an option for. Mm-hmm. I don't have no option to be a father. That's my 24-hour job.
That's mandatory.
That's mandatory. So decisions are made around them. I knew the day that I was going to be out a long time. So you know what I did? I didn't go out and get lunch at the office today. I waited until my baby girl got off from school, and around 4 o'clock. So I slid home for about 30 minutes just to spend a little time with her. Went back out to a parent engagement event at the charter school, then came straight here. And then I still got to go pick Cory up because he's at drill practice, and he don't get off till 9 o'clock. So everything evolves around them. But I can't, balance is key. You know, balance is key. And it's, I heard one of my mentors say it like this. He said, you never, because, you know, they get frustrated. You know, Dad, why you always working? Dad, why you always doing this? You know, they understand sometimes. One of my mentors said, how did he put it? He said, you're never going to please everybody all of the time. Just make sure you're not disappointing the same people all of the time. And I took that and
that's
stuck,
a good one.
You know, and so that's how I balance things out.
That's a good one. So where do you see making a change group in the next 5 years?
5 years?
What's your vision for it?
I like I picked up on this word from Saj Purple Blackwell, solutionary. I like to roll with a solutionary vision. Mm-hmm. So if there's a problem and I have resources or I know a way to solve it, then I like to create a vision around solving that problem. So right now, a problem that I'm not really addressing at all, or I'm not working in that space, I'll say, but I want to. So if I had to say something about a 5-year vision, it would be transitional housing. It'd be affordable housing. It'd be mixed level income.
Okay.
You know, so I would love to be able to bring that to this area, you know, to be able to bring both high-end residential mixed income living. You know, it'd be great for a person that, let's just say, $2,500 a month condo, and a person that normally couldn't afford to live in something like that. You got a dozen of them at $2,500, and then you got half a dozen of them at a third of that price for $800. But they're living in mixed income housing. That's part of it. The other part is transitional housing, where people are just trying to get ahead and get on their feet and creating something beyond just
a better life for themselves.
Just going to, I don't want to say any other nonprofit's name because I do work in the nonprofit space.
Absolutely.
But we shouldn't have to all just be on the waiting list for $3,000 from a certain.
Absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying? Nonprofit or a certain entity just to get a down payment, and then you got to wait. It's too much red tape around that. And so if that's the one thing that I would want to tackle, if making a change group could do something about, that would be sort of that next level. And we would have case managers working with people to help fix your credit, financial literacy, you know, resumes, help empowering people to
get from under that stigmatism,
to make a change.
Because I feel like for the most part, when it comes to people, I'm not going to say our people because it's just not our people.
Yeah.
So I feel like when it comes to people, we get stuck in a rut. And I'll just take public housing for an example. Mm-hmm. You have some situations where public housing was never designed for you to stay there all your life.
Absolutely.
Public housing was designed for you to come there as a stepping stone, get as much as you can from that opportunity at that moment, and then move on to something bigger and better.
Correct.
But I think the component that's missing within that whole aspect of it is there's no one monitoring or no accountability in between. So it shouldn't be a situation where my grandmom stayed there, now she done passed it down to me. And listen, I'm not saying that anything is wrong with that. But what I am saying is there needs to be a transition. Mm-hmm. Transition meaning, okay, so you may have stayed here, or let's just say they give you a timeline. Yeah. You have 18 months. Yeah. Within that 18 months, we're going to work with you to do this, 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 and this. It's not going to be a situation where as though every 6 months you losing your job and now your rent going down to a quarter.
Right.
And then you have a situation where though it's a quarter and you still can't pay it, and 6 months from now we got to put you out. Mm-hmm. We need some kind of component put in there in between to make sure that people are getting to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And more so meeting people where they are.
Agree. But, you said a key thing where you got to make sure that you're putting things in place to empower people.
Yes.
To give people an opportunity.
And sticking with it. Because it's often that there's a lot of times as we the people, we will come up with a bright idea, but we have no timeline. We have no solution. We just have an idea.
Yeah.
So the idea is like a talk phase. It goes from a talk phase to it's all talked out.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel when it comes to our actual community. Mm-hmm. It's always, we have to empower, we have to educate, we have to empower, we have to educate. But what's after that? Mm-hmm. We need something after that.
Agree. But we can't just leave it on people.
No.
We can't leave it on politicians or people that's in those seats.
Absolutely not.
The people.
Absolutely. The community. Because if we sit and we think that the politicians themselves are in those seats because they are here to save us, we got another thing coming. And
to the credit of public housing, a lot of them have resident council.
They do.
They have little groups to help empower.
They do.
I can't really speak. I'm not qualified to speak to that. But, I would assume that not as many people
take advantage of
the resident council and try to get involved.
Yeah, it's not like it's a mandatory thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so I get a place and I'm just here. I'm just here until I decide to leave or I decide not to pay my rent and they put me out. So, we as a community, we got to start, like you said, empowering, because it's bigger and better things out there.
Then I've known some people to, move on. They've taken their voucher and moved on to another city and do well for themselves.
Yes.
They have been empowered through the system and through public housing and went on to do great. I'm more of an advocate of bringing people back into the city, especially those that have talent and have, educated folks coming back to the city and using your talents to help rebuild the community.
Absolutely.
So that's where I think things like those, that mixed level income and some quality development here is going to be key. And we can do it.
More education.
More education. Again, getting back to, shout out to those folks that was working on that PA Constitution.
Major win.
For fair funding for public school system. That's going to be key to helping bringing people back. People that graduate and go on to get their bachelors, their masters, and PhDs. They don't want to move into the community. They may find a nice house, but then they got to turn around and pay mortgage rate to send their kids somewhere else because they may have an issue with the system. So when you improve the system, you start attracting more people that, that kind of meets the needs of everybody.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you.
It's over already? That was an hour?
It's not.
I ain't even finished my bottle of water.
It's definitely not over.
Dang, man.
But I want to thank you for coming on to Straight to the Point with Adelaide Evans. And I'm about to get into the other segment of it. So if you could just chill for a second.
Another segment?
Huh?
Another segment?
Another second.
Second. Okay.
So that was my awesome interview with Mr. Cory Long, Mr. Make It a Change himself, of course. So I just have a few things that I would like to discuss with the actual community. So one of those things is starting next Monday, I will be having a forum called Community Conversations with Adelaide Evans down at the Cat Center. That will be 6 p.m. on Monday. Save the date. Now, let me put this disclaimer out there. I know that oftentimes people will not show up because of the person. Don't do that on my account. If we've ever had a disagreement, if anything has ever taken place, I still want you to show up because I'm able to work with everybody because I'm a big girl. So I need the community to come out. Those that say they want to help, those that say they want to make a change, those that say they just want to be involved. Come out to the community conversations on Monday at the Cat Center at 6 p.m.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
What you got up your sleeve? Where you going with that? What's your vision for that? And this platform?
So my vision for community conversations is basically to bring the community together. So I envision small and then turn into large committees so that we can work in different areas of the city to make sure that everything that this person, this person may be talking about or maybe even be concerned about can get done. I am a solution-based person. So I'm trying to bring the solution. Now, I'm not going to say I know everything, but I will say this. I have a lot of ideas, and I know that other people can bring those ideas to life. I'm one person, but I need the community. So hence, community conversations. So I need the community to come out so we can talk about it. The first step is talking about it. The next step is moving towards getting it together.
Is that every week?
Yes.
Every week?
Yes.
Okay.
So I know that a lot of people were unaware or maybe couldn't attend the 3-day hearing for the city. There is currently a 46-page document that is on the receiver's website on Facebook that you can go and read the entire transcript of that court hearing. Shout out to the stenographer that kept telling VJ Kapoor, I'm gonna need you to slow down, because I can't type as fast as you're talking. She captured literally everything. So if you want to know what took place, what was said, what was not said, who said what, who did what, go on to the receiver's Facebook page and you can see the 46-page document. 46 pages may seem to be a lot. However, once you start reading, it's very intriguing, so you're gonna wanna finish the 46 pages. The 2023 budget for the city is also published on the receiver's website. So you can go on there and look at what city council has approved / proposed for 2023. Now, I'm not going to say that everything in the budget is solidified, because there are some things that need to be worked out and there are some things that we may or may not have money for. So if you want to know what's going on with the budget for the city, go on to the receiver's website and there is all the information. You can even download it and then print it out if it's hard for you to read on your phone. Tomorrow is an L&I meeting at City Hall. You are supposed to be able to go over there and meet whoever your inspector is for your area tomorrow at 11 a.m. at City Hall. Next week, there will be petitions going around for those folks who have decided to run for city office. Those petitions will actually start on February the 14th, and the last day for a signature is March the 7th. So if you see somebody coming up to you and they say, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm running for such and such, we always keep saying we need change. Give these people a chance. They may just be the next best thing that we need for Chester. Now, when it comes to the ARPA funds, just like you, I was a little disheartened when they had the meeting and they said, we went from like 38 million all the way down to 10. Let's keep it real here, people. The city of Chester is in dire straits. So yes, the bulk of that money did go to a lot of things in Chester. One being the roof on City Hall, which was, I want to say, maybe $400,000 to repair. So you have to think outside the box and also remind yourself that, not everything is a bad thing. We can't always get what we want because we still need to have a quality of living in Chester. So when you're thinking of, oh my God, I didn't get this or they didn't give us that, you have to think of what we have been given. And those are some good things, because without those funds for certain areas of the city, operations would not be running. Now, I will say this. When it comes to different things, when it comes to the city, I'm going to stand for the right. So if I see something that's being presented as the right, I'm going to stick with the right. I'm always going to speak up for the right. I also want to say that anybody that feels though they have anything that they need to say when it comes to the city, you're welcome to come on straight to the point. I, of course, am going to have my own questions. They're going to be very intriguing. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to come in, we're going to have a dialogue, and people will get to know you just as well as I will get to know a different side of you as well. And with that being said, I would like to thank you all for tuning in to Straight to the Point with Adelaide Evans.
are the signs of love making.